The best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets, casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Hey, welcome. This is Fantasy Fling with DFS Army doing a Week 13 cash lineup review. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so I'm going to go over to Fantasy Labs once to look where the cash line was. And I got to tell you, there's some weird things in cash this week. Just overall, everything that happened, the scores. I literally thought I just shut this down. The scores, some of the plays that people were playing. But 155 was what cashed this week. And Brock Purdy was really the best option. He ended up being the highest owned by far, and for good reason. It was a great spot going against Philly. They're really hard to run on, despite Christian McCaffrey getting 22 points, because that's what Christian McCaffrey does. They're really hard to run on, but they're more of a pass funnel. And, Deebo Samuel just absolutely smashed. 2 receiving touchdowns. Brock Purdy, that certainly inflated his score. Those huge catch and run, definitely one that Deebo had. He had a couple, just really good catch and runs, and then also a rushing touchdown. So, it was just kind of the game environment that you needed. And Brock Purdy certainly did enough. This lineup had Ayuk in it as well. He wasn't too highly owned, but he wasn't, he was above 10%. So it wasn't contrarian. So it was a good play overall. And, Rachaad White and Zach Moss, these were really core kind of cash plays for us. Zach Moss was actually a core play. We loved Rachaad White in cash as well. Zach Moss, it just made so much sense to play him in cash, and it made 0 sense not to play him. So this is what we talk about when we say a free square. He was almost 100% owned. 92% of the field played Zach Moss at 4,600. So the reason why you play a guy like this in cash is because he had like 8 goal line opportunities, like inside the 10. He got all the touches. He's mispriced relative to his role. He's a backup that was he's a starting role. Price is a backup because no one thought Jonathan Taylor was going to get hurt. So at 4,600, this is just the kind of guy that you play in cash. If he goes off and 92% of the field played him, you have no chance. So if he scores 20 points at 4,600, 92% of the field played him, you're done. So that's why you play him in cash. All the reason to fade in tournaments when someone's going to be that highly owned. He was like 65% in the Millie Maker. But definitely you want to eat that chalk in cash. Now, the other core play that we identified was Tyreek Hill. Same thing. It was too good of a spot. Like, you just could not play Tyreek Hill in cash. And really, that was the decision point for me this week was, can I play Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill? Pretty difficult to do. You could have. In fact, I'm going to show you a lineup that did and smashed. But for me, it was Tyreek Hill over Christian McCaffrey, given the matchup for Tyreek Hill. And I guess he kind of tweaked his ankle. He had like 35 points by like halftime. Like, he could have easily had 50 plus. So really crazy. Great core play that smashed. And then, Olave was the guy that I had. As you'll see, Brevin Jordan is one of these other guys that the value was too good. And the Broncos are poor at defending the tight end. So the fact that Dalton Schultz was out, Brevin Jordan was a guy that's in fact, now that I think about it, I don't have to reopen Discord. I want to show you guys something. Brevin Gordon was a guy that I identified in my cheat sheets kind of will was just play him for cash. Typically, that is going to give you the least amount of variance in your lineup. So if you can find a value tight end like Brevin Jordan, who's 2,500 in a good matchup, that's exactly what you want to do. So you're just going to want to play them in that spot. So I'm going to show you the coach's notes right here. This is something that you have access to as a DFS Army VIP. This is something that I do each and every Sunday. We have the chalkboard, which I'm going to show you. But one of the things we like to do is, we want to give kind of leans like on the slate, because the cheat sheet is the cheat sheet. And by the time Sunday comes out, a lot of things change. There's news last second. We want to look at the final ownership projection. So I kind of just want to give our DFS Army VIPs just an overview of what the thoughts are. And, we had identified Wilson as kind of just a weird chalk this week. And he ended up being weird chalk. The 3 interceptions. Purdy was a much better play at $400 more. So, like I said, probably the cheapest play. Hurts being the safest floor, because we know what kind of floor Hurts has. He had a pretty poor game by his standards and still scored 22 points. So, as I said, Moss is a free square. Just play him in cash. Same with Brevin Jordan, who was 2,500 projected as the top ownership. I also said I'm playing Hill, another core in an amazing spot. So a couple other guys as well. Elijah Moore and Devontae Parker were kind of the value guys, because you're always going to look to find one of those guys who is, going to be getting a decent amount of ownership and just kind of a punt in a good spot. So that's what we did. As we're going to look at the chalkboard, Elijah Moore was getting that ownership. This is another great tool that you have as a DFS Army VIP. He was 3,500, getting 9% ownership. He ended up with like 12 points. So really smashed. And, just the overall chalkboard, you will see could kind of lead you to the best plays, because a lot of these are chalk for a reason, right? Like I said, Russell Wilson, I did like that chalk, not in cash. He's fantasy points per game just weren't high enough for Wilson this year to eat that chalk. So I said Purdy and Jalen Hurts. Those were really the guys that I mentioned. They were on my cheat sheet, and for good reason. This was a good game environment, and we knew they both had a decent floor. Now, when we talk about the free square, we thought, Zach Moss was going to be 45% on. He ended up being much higher than that, obviously, but, that is like a really high projection. You just don't see it. And so when you see a player with this high of a projection, and as far as ownership, you just kind of want to eat that. So that's what we did. Rachaad White was another good play that we liked. Christian McCaffrey's always cash viable, even a tough matchup. But did you want to play Christian McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill? For me, it was going to be Hill, but Christian McCaffrey is certainly viable as well. I didn't like Jaylen Warren in a timeshare, so I wasn't in on him. That was the area I identified as bad chalk. Javonte Williams was the guy that, I liked. He got 10 points. Didn't do well, but didn't kill you. Now, Ramondre Stevenson was a guy that I was on, really high on, and he was probably on his way to a smash day, but he got hurt. And, in fact, we're going to get to my cash lineup in a second. It crushed my cash lineup. There's things that you can't account for, and that's a player getting injured. There's no tool for that. There's unless you're looking into a crystal ball, you just can't figure that out. And then at wide receiver, if you played these 4 top guys and you mixed in a Elijah Moore, like I talked about in the notes, this was really how you cashed. Or, of course, you could have played Nico Collins as well, who was pretty high on the chalkboard. You want to kind of the safety net of playing some guys that are going to be highly owned. Tyreek Hill smashed. Cortland Sutton, 15 points at 5,400, certainly enough to get there. Michael Pittman smashed. And then Olave got like 19 points. So certainly enough for all these guys. At tight end, like I said, Brevin Jordan, David Njoku, Trey McBride. These were the top 3 guys. For me, it was Brevin Jordan. The value was too good. He was getting all the ownership, and he ended up with 9 points. So he smashed as well. So let's take a look at my lineup. Kind of as I was saying, the cash line was 155. So it was just 9 points away. And Ramondre Stevenson is what killed me. So I lost the majority of my head-to-heads just because of these 3 points. He got hurt. Everything else in the lineup came together really well. Like I said, you punt it D. You just don't want a 0. You don't want negative points. But Purdy, 32. Rachaad White, 19. Zach Moss, the free square, 93% owned in cash games. And all my head-to-heads, it was the same. So it didn't hurt you at all. Just take it and move on. Tyreek Hill, same thing, another core play. I loved Olave in this spot with all the injuries they had at wide receiver. Thought he would get a lot of targets and smash, and he did. Sutton, again, 15 points. Brevin Jordan. So, I didn't get there this week because of the injury to Stevenson, but that's how these things go. So a guy that's DFS Army VIP who did smash sent me his lineup. He was able to get creative and get Brock Purdy, not punt at quarterback, which I think it was good. Not having to go down to Wilson to get Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill. He ended up getting Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and Tyreek Hill. And honestly, the lineup was overall still good because he got that Elijah Moore value play. Obviously the free square and Zach Moss. And then Deontay Johnson was able to get Deontay Johnson in there. He was 5,000. And Brevin Jordan and Rachaad White and Falcons D. So really good lineup. Looking back on it, I should have played around with it a little bit more and tried to get here too, because this is just so obvious with Brevin Jordan, Falcons D, Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey, Moss, and Purdy. Just, I really feel like there's one punt here, and that's Elijah Moore, and he was getting good value. So really good stuff from Permanent Stunt. Like I said, if you want access to the chalkboard, the coaches' notes, the cheat sheets, all these tools that help you cash like Permanent Stunt did here, definitely check us out. Use code FANTASYFLING for 10% off a VIP subscription. Also, in the video, we do have a free month offer. So if you're not ready to sign up yet, that's fine. Check the video, try that free month offer. Basically, you're signing up to a site like Sleeper or Underdog or Prize Picks, and you're using the promo code, and that will get you a month free with DFS Army. So that's going to wrap it up. I will see you all next week for the cash lineup review. DFS Army VIPs, I will see you all Thursday night for the cash game VIP breakdown. We'll see y'all later.